Hello, Chip GT here. Have you ever wanted to build your own Vpin table? You may have looked at everything online and thought, this is just a little too overwhelming, or too much for me, or out of the scope of my abilities. This video series will serve as a guide to show you how to build your own table as I build one myself. In this video, I'm going to show you my approach and where to begin. So without any further delay, let's coin in and push that start button. There are a number of different strategies that different companies follow when making new hardware and software, and I'm sure it's no different from any of the big pinball companies that are out there. One of these is called the 7-phase software development lifecycle. With what I do for a living, this is the most familiar to me and the one that I recommend for the task of making a virtual pinball table. The 7 stages are the planning phase, the requirements analysis, the design and prototyping phase, software development phase, testing, the software deployment, and then operations and maintenance. In the planning phase, you need to identify a clear and obtainable goal. For me, this is to create an original themed Vpin table that can be played at Cincinnati 2024. Then you need to decide how you're going to take on this project and what approach you'll be following throughout the development phases. For me, I'm going to have what's called the DevOps style of programming and testing. So I'm going to design the table, program for it, and then test that capability, and then go back and forth until it works. Once you have that down, you need to ask yourself a series of questions that will help to define the scope of the project, create an outline, and catch problems before the development even begins. So for me, what is the overall theme and feel that I want? When I was at Cincinnati this past year, Sid and I were really impressed with the theme and the kind of goofy craziness of Galactic Tank Force. And so we want to try to capture our own kind of goofy and wackiness that we have in creating a really original theme. Then you have to think about what table features you want. In the last video we did for New Year's, we kind of covered some of our favorite table features, and you guys reached out to us and told us some of your favorite features. Then you need to think about how can I add modes that will work with these features, and then how to incorporate all this into the table in the first place. For me, I've already identified some problems with coding. I'm not really familiar with VPX, so I've got to become familiar with that. I need to work on my 3D design. I need to find somebody that can help me with audio, artwork, and getting a better understanding how VPX works so that I can get full DMDs and putt packs and all that other stuff. The nice thing is there is a great community out there that can help with this, and I'm sure that I'll be able to work through all this. I'm going to be relying on some of you out there and asking you for your help and for your input, and we are going to do this DevOps kind of style of building, and you'll be able to follow along with me and test out all the features as I'm doing it and help me identify some problems as we go through it. Next is the requirements. So this is more like, I want these features, I want it to be able to do this. My requirements are, I want to have the in-fuzzy physics, the Fleep sounds for SSF, I want DOF links to work with it, I want it to be VR capable, I want there to be lots of toys on the table that interact with the gameplay, and have a full DMD with either a B2S file or a putt pack. In the design and prototyping phase, this is where we're going to design the actual table, create a whiteboard in VPX, not necessarily go into all the coding right away, but just kind of design, make sure the ball rolls right, that it doesn't get hung up on anything as we're building it, and that, when you hit things, it collides right, the physics work right, and those kinds of things. For me, I know that I really like the way that Jersey Jack does a wide body cabinet. And I like the idea of having 2 drain lanes with 4 feeder lanes that give you different abilities. So our first design video is going to be how do you create a wide body cabinet and how do you get those drain lanes set up, because VPX does not give you a basic build of that to build from. So I have to create the basic build and then move forward from there. I need to figure out how I want to do some loops and some ramps, some pop bumpers, spinners, if I want to have mini play fields, getting artwork into it, and then building the design in VPX and make sure that it works and just tweak it to where it is working. In the software development phase, this is where I plan on putting in the FNASI physics, because you have to really have a design down. If you've ever watched any video of how to incorporate the in-FOSI physics, you really have to build your design first and then incorporate the physics in a way so that it works with your design. The Fleep sounds, it's great that if you want to try to do Fleep like as you're building it, but I don't recommend doing that. Get the design down first, then add Fleep into it as we go. And we also want to create the various modes and the wizard modes and how you're going to advance to the wizard modes, all the coding, the combos, the DMD scoring, and so on. In the test phase, this is where you actually test and is it doing what you want it to do. If it is, then you can press on and do something else. If not, then it needs to be fixed and determine if this feature is still feasible for you. And this is where the DevOps approach really comes into play. So going back and forth between design and software and test, you're going to see what most program developers do is they do the agile approach. And that is like a 2-week sprint where you just kind of work for 2 weeks on one particular thing or one particular function, get it to work right, test it, go back and forth for 2 weeks, and get that one thing working the way that you want. When it comes to the deployment phase, there are 2 different ways that you can deploy it out to the masses, VP Forms or VP Universe. I highly recommend that you pick one, because you're probably going to get feedback from players with issues that they have with it, or they can't get it to work right, and you don't want to be looking at 2 different sources constantly to see if you're having a problem, or if multiple people are having a problem with one thing, you're going to have a million different responses from a whole bunch of different people from 2 different forums and have to answer a lot of different questions. And then finally, that goes right into the operations and maintenance. So as VPX software updates come out, do you want to update it? Do you want to as more physics and things come out, how do you want to incorporate it? Are you going to have dot releases? Maybe for our first go, we just want to have a functional table, and then we'll add on other things later. So that's where you get the dot releases, like the 1.0s, the 2.0s, or you can have mini releases that incorporate smaller changes, like the 1.1, 1.2s, things like that, and fix the different issues that players are having. So on that note, just some things to help you guys out. You may notice that there's a box right below me and been wondering this whole time, what the heck is that for? Well, I am going to show you in all my videos moving forward exactly what phase we are in for every video that I'm doing, so that you can follow along and understand where we're at. I don't want to put a whole bunch of extra mumbo jumbo all over the screen, just to make it so that it's not as confusing for you. And with that, I think it's time for me to kind of explain that I have already completed the first 2 phases of this. I have already planned out my plan, which I just shared with you. I already have all the different ideas down on paper for how we're going to, or how I want to set up the table, and I've drawn one out using paper, and we've kind of got some ideas, and we got to see how it's going to work in VPX. So the next video, I'm going to be jumping right to the development phase. So if you are not ready for that yet, there are a series of videos. I'm going to link them down in the description. You'll be able to follow along and see what I did. I had a whole month of research. I looked at how VPX works and how to get it working. I looked at videos that showed me how to do Fleep sounds and how to do the in-FOSI physics, and a couple of tools that you might want to download for free is Fusion 360. In the link, I have a description that will basically give it to you for free, as long as you do not plan to make money using Fusion 360. Otherwise, they're going to come after you. Also, another tool to get is Blender, and I know that they're 2 different 3D tools, but one is really good at making machine parts, and the other one is really good at making models. So if you want to have different models in your table, use Blender. If you want to have some different machine parts that you might want to build some custom ramps or build some custom things for your table, use Fusion 360. So watch some videos, learn how to use those. I got all the links down in the description for you. And now it's time for me to share what we've been keeping kind of a secret for a while. The code name for this project is called Snow Day. And just think of all the things that you might enjoy on a snow day and some of the things that you might want to avoid on a snow day, and you can kind of get a sense of Sid and mine's goofy ideas that we might bring to this table. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get started, but please do a little bit of research on your own so that you're familiar with some of the things that I am doing. I'm going to be walking you through them like incremental steps. I'm going to have some live streams to help answer any of your questions that you might have, and we're going to have this back and forth exchange. This is truly going to be a community build because I am going to be taking feedback from you all and incorporating it in. I'm going to ask for some of your help and some guidance. We're going to have voting features and all kinds of other cool things as we go along in this build. So with that, if you learned something from this, please give me a like, please subscribe. It really does help the channel to grow. I can't wait to get started on this. I'll see you guys in the next one.